Hello, everybody. This is Jeff Allen. I am home. Last week was something I should apologize for again. I was not prepared and was out on my golf trip with some dear friends of mine. He got me this shirt, as you can see. It says Valhalla PGA. My buddy Jeff Jenna got me that for a gift for my birthday. My birthday was last week. 68 trips around the sun. Thank you very much. And we went to Whistling Straits in Kohler, Wisconsin, and we went to Sand Valley and played some course there. And it was a wonderful, wonderful trip. A lot of walking. My feet's killing me. And but I'm looking forward to getting back to work. I want to say right up front, Saturday I go back to work. I've been off a month. I don't think I'll ever do that again. I think it's good for a person my age to be working, So I put on some weight, and I am looking forward to getting back to work. Sonamish, Washington. Sonamish, I think that's how you pronounce it, at a church there on Saturday, and then Sunday I'm doing the Sunday service at 10 o'clock. So if you're in that area, it's about 50 miles outside of Seattle. I'll be flying into Seattle on Saturday, and then I fly to Lexington on Sunday night. Kentucky, and I do a corporate show on Monday. Then I fly back to Las Vegas on Monday, fly to Vegas, and then Tuesday I do a corporate show there, and then I fly down to Tempe, Arizona at the Improv, one of my favorite places, and looking forward to getting back to Arizona. We used to live in Arizona, and Tammy did not care too much for Arizona. I always tell this story to friends. When our first summer in Arizona, I walk into I come home from the golf course in a monsoon rain. If you've never been in an Arizona monsoon rain, there are times you can't see 20 feet in front of you. You're blinded. And I pull into the driveway, and my wife Tammy is standing in the driveway with her arms spread out. She's looking at the heavens, soaked and wet. And I asked the obvious question when I got into the garage. I stayed dry. And I said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "It actually rains in this godforsaken place." So anyway, I thought at that moment our time in Arizona would be limited, and it was to 6 years. And we moved to Nashville 6 years later. But anyway, I digress. What's going on? Again, there's a lot going on. Some stuff that has caught my eye over the last couple of weeks. Russell Brand, one of my favorite podcasters. I watch him on Rumble all the time, and really enjoy his work. Enjoyed his journey, a spiritual journey. And a couple weeks ago, I think it is now, or a few weeks ago, he was baptized very publicly on the internet and gave his life to Christ, and is now a Christ follower. And it'll be interesting to watch his journey. And I watched him post his first communion as a Christian, and it was fun. It was good for me to watch because it brought me back 27 years ago when I did my first communion, and how the joy of that ritual of body and blood and taking my communion for the first time. So it was good to see. I love watching new Christians. It was almost like when I first was going into AA. It's in reverse. You in AA. All the old people there that have been there for years, they're the ones that are centered and sane and supposedly full of joy. And the newcomers are the ones that are beat up and broken. So anyway, to watch Russell and his journey, it made me think about some things that very similar to mine. I believe that Russell is a thinking man, and a logical man, and a rational man. And to me, if you're on a spiritual search, if you're spiritually thirsty, and and you're seeking what the world has to offer, and then eventually, I think you start. Let's just say there's 5 roads that the world. Let's just say you start out with many roads in your search for God and His existence. And then eventually, to me, all those roads logically will lead to Christ. I believe that, and it certainly was true in my case. So to me, he became to the logical conclusion that if God exists, Christ is who He claimed to be. Then I will spend the rest of my life following those beliefs. And again, the journey is it's an individual journey. It's not a collective journey. So we all have to answer the same 4 questions basically in life if you want to think about them: meaning, morality, destiny, creation. How did we get here? How does that story of origin? How did we get here? How that leads to a meaningful life, and meaning, and then origin, meaning, morality. How do I define right or wrong in my life? And then destiny. Is this it? What is our destiny after we pass on? So anyway, if you believe, as I believe, that there are angelic and demonic realms, then there is truth, and then there is lies, and then I believe that God is the author of truth, and the devil is the author of lies. So we live in a day, and I said this a couple weeks ago, I believe we are living in the age of Pilate, where Jesus said, those who hear my voice are on the side of truth, and Pilate just offhandedly asks the question, what is truth? And I believe that's the question of the day. What is truth? And I think those are all stuff that, again, that Jesus didn't come and create a collective salvation. He came and created an individual salvation. And it's our job as those of us who have accepted that to share that good news. And it is good news that God came down and Jesus did what he did for us on the cross. But that's another day. I'm going to get back to Ecclesiastes, and I had a skip for a couple weeks just to give you a break, and we stopped at chapter 4 a couple weeks ago, and a little recap. Chapters 1, 2, and 3 are basically Solomon basically said that life under the sun, which is here on earth, is meaningless, pointless. He didn't really say it was meaningless. I guess he said it was futile, basically. There's nothing underneath here that ultimately will give you any challenges anybody to find meaning in knowledge, hedonism, and materialism. The knowledge is your freshman year. You try to get wise. Most people want to learn as much as they can. And you figure, okay, this will give me a point and meaning to my life. And eventually you realize it, as I did. The more I studied and the more I tried to understand, the more ignorant I realized I was. And I'm not an intellectual. I have nothing but respect for academics. This is why an academic will take one field of study and spend their entire life learning it. That's just one field of study. There's a lot to learn. And Solomon says, look, I devoted my life. I was going to learn everything I could learn. And lo and behold, it never gave me meaning. So then your sophomore year, your second thing would be hedonism. Well, I'm going to make all the money I can. And then I'm just going to enjoy life. I'm going to eat, drink, and be merry because that makes sense to me. And lo and behold, Solomon, after many years of many dollars spent, and he was a king, for gosh sakes, and concubines, and holy cow, I think 1,000 wives. I mean, really? I have enough trouble with one standing in the driveway waiting for the rain to stop. I mean, can you imagine 1,000 of them out there? I can't imagine. And even those that have 2 or 3 or 4 wives, whew, that's a lot. I told Tammy many times, you walk out on me, this is it. I have jumped everything into this marriage. Besides, my career would be over if she walked out on me, and she knows that. So she holds that over my head. No, she doesn't. She was just out of town. I digress. I understand this. But she was just out of town. One of her family members went to 23andMe, and they found a cousin and an aunt that they didn't even know existed. So now she wants me to do 23andMe or Ancestry, I guess is the one we're going to do. Ancestry. So who knows? I may find out that there are people out there that carry my name that I didn't even know about. I don't know if I want to know that. Anyway, back to the Ecclesiastes. And so freshman year is your knowledge, That's you try to gain wisdom and get as smart as you can to give yourself meaning and purpose and point to life, and you realize at some point you can't learn enough. You'll not learn everything, so you have to just kind of abandon that. And then you go, no, heck, why I might as well make all the money I can, and I'm going to just enjoy the fruits of all of that. And Solomon did, and came to the conclusion that it too was futile for bringing lasting meaning. We're talking about lasting meaning and joy. And then materialism, I'm going to own everything I can get my hands on. That kind of fits into the to the hedonism category. And we lived through the 80s in America. Ask yourself, those of us who lived through the 80s, he who dies with the most toys wins. Are we a better nation for that? Probably not. So anyway, Solomon's conclusion, it was complete and total despair, and Solomon said he hated life. And Solomon's God's everyman. If anyone could find meaning in the machine, and he compared Earth to a machine, because it really is. It just continues to spin. I just finished a trip around the sun, my 68th trip around the sun. And at 24-hour day, it rotates, and then 365 around the sun constantly. If it had sound, you'd hear it. Chugga, 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 chugga. And it just keeps and continues to go around and around and around. And I mentioned this a few weeks ago. I don't know about anybody listening to me right now, but I can tell you many, many, many times in recovery, I just wish I could have put a pause button on the planet, just stopped everything and taken a breath. It was just moving too fast for me. And again, I believe in the demonic realms and the angelic realms, and I believe that the demonic wants us to live in the past or in the future, and the angelic, God, wants us to live in the present, in the moment. And I was constantly beating myself up for my past mistakes, and I still go through that. I struggle with what I did as a father, not being around, traveling so much, and here's a gift. Here's an answer to a prayer. My oldest son sent me a text. They do everything by text. I don't understand this, but sent me a text, and he said, Denmark, oh my gosh. Sent me a text and said he forgives me. And I have to tell you that it broke me, knowing that I needed forgiveness from my sons because of all the traveling. I was gone so much. And the demonic wants me to live in the past or in the future. So I'm always looking back in the past to the mistakes I made and the sins I've committed. And then in the future, is this it? That's where the despair came in for me back 27 years ago, when I was sitting there and I would thinking, is this it? I go out, I tell a few jokes, I buy a few things, they wear out, we take them to the landfill. And then if I'm lucky, I get more money, but I buy nicer things. But eventually it all wears out, we go to the landfill with it. So that's it. Demonic wants past and future, and and God wants us in the present. He wants us in the moment. And that's basically where Nietzsche came in and said that the true act of rebellion against the despair of life is suicide. And Nietzsche he wound up in an insane asylum, so I can't imagine. I love how many academics quote Nietzsche. They spend he's a field of study, Nietzsche. I can't imagine studying that man for too long. He was not a happy guy. Let's just put it that way. Not a happy guy, but I bet you he had a wicked sense of humor. I really do. I bet you Nietzsche had a wicked sense of humor. And anyway, the last two verses of chapter 2 were marvelous. Solomon gives the only working solution for meaning and joy. And that's chapter 2. A person can do nothing better than to eat and drink and find satisfaction in their own toil. This too I see is from the hand of God. So he doesn't say to lay around and be a bum, but he says just learn to understand that that's not the ultimate meaning in life. So enjoy it. Enjoy your day. Enjoy your work. I've told my sons when they were growing up, if everything you do is for the glory of God, you'll do it better. Believe me, I don't care if you're sweeping floors, or if you're washing cars, or if you're telling jokes. If you get up in the morning and you get on your knees and you thank God for the employment that you have, and then you say, God, allow me to do what I do today for your glory, you'll do it better. period. I just believe that. Anyway. So anyway, there's nothing for a man to eat and drink and to tell himself that his labor is good. This too is from the hand of God. For who can eat and drink and have enjoyment without him? Meaning, without God, man is dead to live. Again, John Paul Sartre said it in a negative sense. Sartre. Unless there is an infinite reference point, all things. He didn't say some, he said all things are meaningless. In other words, unless something in your life that you believe in is an absolute fixed position in the universe, then all reference points are constantly moving as the earth moves. And I can think about my life and just all the little things that I picked up that I thought, this is it. And Tammy still laughs at me every time I buy a new driver, because every time she sees a new driver, she goes, oh, this is the one now. This will get you out on tour. I'm not thinking of the tour, but I'm just thinking of hitting a fairway every now and then would be nice. That's all I'm saying. So anyway, that's kind of the summary of the first 4 chapters, I think. I have all my notes. These notes had come from chapter 3, verses 1 through 10. Solomon looks at a sovereign plan of God. There are appointed times. I forgot, that's important to remember that. There are appointed times for death, and death is part of the plan. We don't get out of here alive. We really don't. So in the chapter 3, there's a time for everything. The birds, I think, wrote this song. There's a season for everything, for every activity, a time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot. I was going to sing, but I don't know if that would go over. Every time I sing in church, Tammy grabs my hand and goes, shh, people can hear you. It's not good. So a time to kill and a time to heal, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance, a time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, a time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, and a time to search, a time to give up, and a time to keep, and a time to throw away, a time to tear, and a time to mend, a time to be silent. Oh, Lord, do we need that? Whew. Time to be silent, and a time to speak, a time to love, and a time to hate, a time for war, and a time for peace. So basically it swings from good to bad, bad to good to bad, bad to good to bad, bad to good. So anyway, that's life. We know that. We're adults. We know that. So what's the use? There's no profit, really. We lose it all. We can't control life. We are not the masters of our fate, the captains of our soul. No one can sing it. No one can. I did it my way. Frank did, and he did it well, but he didn't do it his way. Trust me. Solomon sits back and gazes and summarizes life. He looks at the task God has given to the sons of Adam. Literally, we are the sons of Adam. That's another thing I was thinking about. Anyway, I'll talk about that later. It's an illustration to Adam and sons driven from Eden to work by the sweat of their brows in a world of thorns, thistles, and sin and death. And that's basically it. We work. We have to work. We are assigned to work. We are asked to work. And we toil. I like that word. It's toil. And getting on an airplane is toil. But the joy is the work when I get to Sammamish and I get to stand in front of those beautiful people and hear their laughter. And that's a joy for me. In verses 11 through 15, God gives everything is beautiful. And that's Ray Charles, baby. Everything is beautiful. Oh, I can feel her grabbing my hand. The puzzle piece fits, but eternity is in our hearts. It's in our hearts, eternity. How? Why? What is the purpose? How does it fit? But we will not figure it out. Not now. And he goes on to say, basically, God makes time and man makes the watch. That's Chuck Swindoll. And the farther along will know all about it. And anyway, we're going to start chapter 5 tonight. And I have been looking forward to this, getting back to this book. being with you guys. I hope you're enjoying this. I'm really out of my comfort zone here, but anyway, it's just good to talk to you again. I've been home for a month, Ontario, Canada. It's great to hear from you. Ecclesiastes 1 through 7 we're going to do tonight. And Solomon has examined, guard your steps when you go to the house of God. Go near to listen rather than to offer the sacrifice of fools who do not know that they do wrong. That's fools. They do not know they do wrong. Do not be quick with your mouth. Do not be hasty in your heart to utter anything before God. God is in heaven and you are on earth. So let your words be few. A dream comes when there are many cares, and many words mark the speech of a fool. I love that. I even highlighted that in my iPad. A dream comes when there are many cares, and many words mark the speech of a fool. When you make a vow to God, do not delay to fulfill it. He has no pleasure in fools, so fulfill your vow. It is better not to make a vow than to make one and not fulfill it. Do not let your mouth lead you into sin, and do not protest to the temple messenger. My vow was a mistake. Isn't that great? Can you see yourself standing in front of the creator of the universe and go, I was kidding. I was kidding. I didn't mean it. I'm sorry. I made a promise I couldn't keep. And as a matter of fact, I think that's where somebody once said that how different maybe the New Testament would have been if at some point it said Jesus laughed. I got to figure he laughed all the time. When you can look truly into a man's heart and see his motives and his heart, and he goes, yeah, I like Peter. I love you, Lord. I'll never denounce you. Right. Well, you're going to denounce me 3 times before the rooster crows. Yeah, probably made him laugh. I guess, yeah, right, Peter. Okay, yeah, gotcha. So anyway, why should God be angry at what you say and destroy the work of your hands? So much dreaming and many words are meaningless. Therefore, fear God. In other words, you're going to make a lot of. I read that, and I try to lay these words over my life. And back in the day when I was sitting on a bar stool with a bunch of other drunks, talking about how wonderful fathers we were and all the dreams we had for our sons. And we didn't do anything. We just sat there and drank and talked about it. And that's the way I read that. Much dreaming and many words are meaningless. Therefore, just fear God. So, in other words, do rather than talk about it. So Solomon's examined the challenges to the idea of sovereignty of God. Now Solomon gives a caution. So, and guard your steps before you go to the house of God. In other words, he's challenging the idea of a sovereignty of God. You're going to go before God, and you're going to challenge him. So, but he gives a caution. As with everyone who goes through difficulties in life, he has certain questions and struggles, but he needs to be cautious in how you speak to God. As a parent often says to his child, "Watch your tone with me." There's a way to question authority. And Job found this out. I love Job. I mean, one of my favorites. If you haven't read Job, I ask the question, why have you not read Job? So Job had a lot of questions for God. There were a lot of bad things happening to Job. Maybe at some point we'll go through the book of Job. But in chapter 38 is when God finally has had enough of Job's whining. And then the Lord spoke to Job out of a storm. How would that be like? You're sitting there railing your fist. The creation is railing his tiny little fist at the Creator and demanding whatever. And the Lord spoke to Job out of the storm. Who is this that obscures my plans with words without knowledge? So in other words, he had no idea what he was talking about. Brace yourself like a man, because I will question you and you shall answer me. Imagine that, where the Creator, God himself, says, I got some questions for you, Buster. Yeah, so sacrifice of fools in context is an offering made with a vow. Basically, I'm gonna if you do this for me, God, I'll do this for you. Don't do that. That is not, God is to be approached with respect, and he's not to be manipulated. And there's not this, I hear this all the time. I pray and I pray and I pray, and they don't get answered. And my response to that is yet. I'll give you an answer to a prayer that took over 10 years. My son's been married for 10 years, and we've never been invited to his house for a meal. And it's not that I prayed to be invited to my son's house for a meal, but I pray that we would get closer. And there's nothing closer than sitting at a table, breaking bread with friends and family, which is why it's so important to eat dinner with your family. If it wasn't for Tammy insisting that we eat as a family, I would have never done it, because the last, whatever years I was with my parents, 10 years, I ate in the basement in front of the TV pretty much alone most nights, or with my brothers or sisters. When we got married, and I was ready to just park in front of the TV and eat dinner, and Tammy said, "Over my dead body." And we would sit as a family and eat. That's your time to sit with the people you love and get to know them and know their day and hold them accountable for their day. And you can't do it when they're 13 or 14. You have to start when they're 5 or 6. Why do I have to sit here? Because we always sit as a family. It's important to sit as a family. And when they raise their voice, you say to them, as if God said to Job, "Watch your tone. Watch your tone with me. I'm your father." Solomon in verse 2, "Do not be hasty in word or impulsive in thought to bring up a matter in the presence of God, for God is in heaven and you are on earth, therefore let your words be few." And he's warning about the deals. Don't make deals. If you just get me out of this mess, I'll be a better person. Because as an addict, I can tell you, I made those vows and it didn't end well. It didn't end well at all. It wasn't until I just got on my knees and just fell on my face and said, I can't do this anymore. I can't. I'm not going to even promise anymore. I quit promising to my wife, my children. I quit promising to everybody. Nobody cares about your words. Whether they say, to be Jesus. Just be Jesus. Don't talk about him. Be him. Verse 4, "When you make a vow to God, do not be late in paying it, for he takes no delight in fools. Pay what you vow." We are not to be hasty in vows or to use God to get out of troubles. Again, same thing. Just watch what you say, watch what you promise, even with human beings. I get tired. We've all had a friend that borrowed money or whatever, numerous times. "I'll pay you back, I'll pay you back." And, you realize that you're giving them the money. You'll never see it again. You're giving it to them out of love. But don't promise me. Please, don't. You may be fooling yourself. You're not fooling the rest of us. And as an all-seeing God knows your heart, certainly when you're in the despair, most of us make promises we won't keep. In verse 6, "The messenger or the Levite comes to receive your vow made in a time of distress." And you can't get all of a sudden change. I made a mistake. I got to go back to 5. I'm sorry. I messed up. By the way, if you want an exhaustive study of this, please go to dentonbible.org/media, and you can download or get Tommy Nelson, who sends me these notes, and he probably sits and watches me chopping them to shreds. So they'll probably stop coming. No, anyway, dentonbible.org/media, and you can download the entire series of Ecclesiastes and hear what an educated man who devoted his life to this book, it's his passion for this book that gives me the passion I have for this book. Anyway, verse 6, where is it? "Do not let your mouth lead you into sin, and do not protest to the temple messenger. My vow was a mistake. Why should God be angry at what you say and destroy the work of your hands?" Because he flat out tells you, don't make any vows. Don't promise me things you can't deliver. And I'm going to hold you to it. So don't do it, or I'll destroy the work of your hands. The caution, "Come to God in times of trouble," will come with an attitude of respect. With respect, for me, my prayers are always, and I can honestly attest to this for 27 years, Just give me some peace in this storm. That's all I'm asking. I understand that I'm in the midst of something, usually of my own making, and I have to work my way out. That's where the 12 steps of the program of Alcoholics Anonymous comes in handy for me, because I live in the 9th step. I can't go very long without making amends. I just, if I have trouble with a person in my life, certainly a person that I love, and I'm up at night thinking about it, then I'm on the phone the next day, or if I can, I'll break bread with them and apologize and, try to get peace. I just want peace. I understand I'm a victim of my own circumstances most times. I don't think God is up there directing these things to come my way. Most times, it's just me that has created the problem. So all I'm asking for is the calm in the storm. And one of my favorite pictures, if you can imagine this, is the bird in the crevice of a rock and the storm raging around it, and where God provides this little safe haven for this tiny little bird in the midst of that storm, and that bird is in peace and calm in that little crevice. Mark Twain is quoted as saying, "Quitting smoking is easy. I've done it a number of times." And Job had questions, and Job was not rebuked for his questions, but the tone of voice and asking them. He wasn't rebuked for the questions. I believe God wants our questions. That's, he'll answer them. But watch your tone. Watch your tone. And Eli, who cautioned Job that he need not know everything in life. The only thing he needed to know is that God isn't writing the story. That means we do not have to know how the piece fits into the puzzle, only that God made the puzzle. Isn't that beautiful? There's this tapestry that God is weaving in our lives. And as long as we just, again, live in the moment, not in the past and not in the future, then God will weave this beautiful tapestry out of all of the mess we make in this life. I believe that. A few weeks ago, made the comparison to the black notes on the keyboard. Those are the sharp notes. And if you just play the sharp notes, it's not a very melodic. But if you combine it with the white ivory keys and the black keys and you put it all together, those sharp notes make a beautiful, beautiful sound. So all the pain and suffering in our lives that we have, and nobody gets out of here scot-free. God will use that pain and suffering to make a beautiful melody. That's his point. So anyway, Paul said in Philippians 4, learn to be content in whatever circumstances I am. I know how to get along with humble means, and I also know how to live in prosperity. In any and every circumstance, I've learned the secret of being filled and going hungry, both of having abundance and suffering need. I can do all things through him who strengthens me, 4:13. And that's really it in a nutshell. And I will leave on that note as we look forward to next week. But that was the secret that Paul had to learn, the mystery of an invisible means of support. Isn't that beautiful? You have to learn the mystery of the invisible means of support. To know that God is sovereign. God is sovereign in our lives. And we have to trust that. Doesn't mean I gotta like it. I'm kind of Job at a lot of times. But never, after reading Job, would I just shake my fist, my tiny little, the creation, shaking my little fist at the heavens and asking him why. There was a great joke. My father, I share this in my book, by the way. I should make a shameless plug. Are we there yet? My journey from a messed up to a meeting. Shameless plug of my book. And I share a story. I think they might have taken it out. I'm not sure. Of my father was an atheist. If you asked him, he was an atheist. Didn't believe in God. But he railed at God his entire life. His entire life. Didn't see the irony in that. Every mistake, red lights, traffic jams, every little slight in his life was God getting back at him for whatever reason, because God didn't like him. So anyway, again, didn't see the irony in it. So I saw a cartoon, and this is one of my favorite cartoons, and it was a three squares Guy standing in a rainstorm, shaking his fist at the heavens. Why me, Lord? Why me? And then the second thing was something else that bad happened to him. And he's, why me, Lord? Why me? And the third screen was just another bad thing happening to this poor soul. Why me? Why? It's always me. Why me? And then the fourth frame was the thunderclap and the lightning bolts, and big finger comes out of the sky, and this booming voice says, I don't know, something about you just ticks me off. Isn't that great? Wouldn't that be great if God did that? You know, you're shaking your fist and you're just, why me, always me, and God just goes, I don't know, something about you just ticks me off. I just think that's funny. That's where my head goes. So anyway, I'll leave you with this, folks. When it comes to God and you're in a difficult time and you have questions, and we all have questions of our Creator, ask yourself and watch your tone when you go to the throne. Just watch your tone. And this is where Jesus comes in. Jesus whispers. He doesn't shout. You'll never ever see any human version of Jesus. They made a lot of movies about Jesus. And he never booms his voice. He never yells. He never shouts. He talks in a gentle tone. And he goads us. Just do better, my child. Do better. That's all. So I'll leave you with a prayer. God, thank you for this time. Thank you for these wonderful people. And we'll see them out on the road, Lord, you and me, because I can't do what I do without you. For those that are confused and are seeking, I send them to Russell Brand. I send them to Russell Brand, your new servant, that he may articulate a lot better than I am. He's a much smarter man than me. But the joy that's coming out of that young man is just heartwarming to see. And that light that shines through him is your light. And so I ask, Lord, that you fill me with that light, you fill me with your peace, and you give me the knowledge of your will, and give me the courage to carry that out. And I thank you all, and all of this in Jesus' precious name. Amen. Goodbye, guys. We'll see you next Monday, and we're going to continue chapter 5. And I'll be in Lexington when I speak to you next. So God bless you guys. We'll talk to you later.